Good afternoon, Cameron University. This week in SGA, senators and representatives were asked to participate in the campaign Replanting Our Aggie Roots, and a new piece of legislation concerning how often student workers receive paychecks was presented. CUSGA reporter Mitch Watson gets an interview with Vice President of University Advancement Albert Johnson, and guest Senator Kevin Steverson is in the studio. All this and more coming up on This Week in SGA. With the weather changing and the sun shining, it may be hard for students to think back a month ago to the disastrous ice storm that left many without power. Unfortunately, Cameron University is still dealing with the after effects of the damaged trees on campus. At this week's meeting, Vice President of University Advancement Albert Johnson addressed the students about the plan to raise money for the Replanting Our Aggie Roots campaign. CUSGA reporter Mitch Watson has the details.
In January, a massive ice storm hit southern Oklahoma, damaging hundreds of trees on Cameron University's campus. Vice President Albert Johnson has started a campaign to restore the damage caused by the ice storm called Replanting Our Aggie Roots. For This Week in Student Government, this is Mitch Watson reporting. According to Vice President Johnson, approximately 200 trees on campus were damaged from the storm, causing an estimated $250,000 to $300,000 in damage. Johnson is now working to raise funds through donations to cover the cost of cleaning after the storm and planting new trees. Just after 3 weeks, the campaign has raised more than expected.
From the ice storm to the week after, we had letters that were going out with pictures that were taken on campus. But literally in about 2 weeks is what we've been after. A little over $50,000 has been raised. Huge, amazingly successful.
Johnson has now extended the campaign to students as he invited individuals and student organizations to participate at this week's SGA meeting. Thomas Smith, who represents the Sigma Tau Gamma fraternity at SGA, says he thinks the campaign is a great idea.
I think any movement now to putting more trees in and kind of replacing that landscape is a move for the better. And I mean, so anything is going to help. And I think that they tend to do a really good job about landscaping out here, and I'm sure they'll try their best to recover from this.
Johnson said that all the replanting is planned to be finished around Arbor Day at the end of March. For This Week in Student Government, I'm Mitch Watson.
Students and organizations who wish to donate may do so by contacting the Office of University Advancement in the Administration Building. Vice President Johnson encourages students to donate as little as $1 and to remember that every little bit helps. This week's piece of legislation may mean a big change for every student worker on campus. Author Senator Kevin Steverson proposed that student workers receive pay bi-weekly instead of once a month. Senator Steverson is here today to talk about his legislation. So welcome, and we're really glad to have you on the show today. Tell me, what exactly does the legislation call for?
The legislation calls for all student worker employees to be paid every 2 weeks instead of once a month.
Right. And why did you decide to write this piece of legislation?
Well, I decided to write it because as a student, I realized that our finances and our money needs to be better maintained, and that as a student, I realized the importance of our money.
Do you think that students or student workers would be in favor of getting paid twice a month instead of once a month?
I think it's something that would be a great benefit for them.
What kind of research did you do in preparation for this legislation?
Well, I spoke with Ken Gilliam, who is a payroll supervisor. I also spoke with a lot of payroll staff, and they gave me a lot of advice on it. And I did find out that eventually it will all switch over to bi-weekly. So I just wanted to jump the gun and just get a head start.
Okay. When you presented the legislation last night, what were some responses that you got from senators and representatives?
Well, I got a lot of positive responses and questions, very important questions as to whether or not students would prefer it as an option. Some people prefer to keep it the same way. So with every different piece of legislation, there's always two sides to a story, and you have to respect and understand both people's opinions and sides.
Okay. Why are student workers paid only once a month?
In talking with payroll, it's just something that was always done that way. No specific reason given. Of course, when you're in the payroll department, you want to keep everything the same. So I guess it was better to pay students the same as it was paying the full-time employees.
Now, does Aggie Access have anything to do with turning over to biweekly? Does it make it possible for us to pay student workers twice a month?
Yes, employees, all employees, including WorkStudy, we're doing our time and everything into WebCT, a new payroll system that's automated. And basically, it cuts down on the number of staffing needs to maintain the payroll.
Okay. Last night in the meeting, the legislation was first reading, but it got voted to go the week after spring break into another first reading instead of a second reading. What does that mean?
Well, basically, there was a lot of unanswered questions that I needed maybe to do a little bit more research and get back to answer them, and how that process works, because I was involved in a previous legislation of direct deposit. You have to basically satisfy the student body's questions before it moves to the next level. It's only appropriate.
Okay. What were some of the questions asked? Difficult ones you knew were going to be asked?
A lot of them were difficult, caught me off guard, and it let me know that I didn't quite do my homework like I should. A lot of them was costs, as far as now, would it be the legislation, I had made a mistake in the writing, or actually I contradicted myself when I was speaking regarding the writing. I was talking about an option when actuality the legislation mentioned no option on it. It was just actually going to be something that I was proposing as a benefit without the students having say, oh, I want to do it or not.
Okay, so will it be an option or will it be twice a month?
It would be a benefit. I'm proposing it to be a benefit to students for them to be paid without them actually having an option, because to back the payroll system up, it has to be consistent.
Right.
And so it costs more to have different people being paid differently than it does to have us all on the same pay period.
Okay. So is there any research that you're going to do between now and then when you present the legislation again? Anything you have to tie up or go find out about?
I'm hoping that I can find some kind of way to maybe survey some students and just see what their needs are, if they're interested in it. I will also consult more with payroll to do a little bit more extensive research and try to figure out some of those questions some answers to questions I was asked.
Okay. You modeled this after another school, right?
Yes, actually there was 2 schools I went to, but the one that's most relevant to the same type of school is University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond, Oklahoma. But I also received an associate at OSU OKC in Oklahoma City, and I worked there as a work study. So they already had the direct deposit, and they already had the every 2-week pay.
So in your opinion, it can work and it would be beneficial for students?
Yes, that's what I'm exactly saying, because I've actually worked at those schools and I saw it done.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and answering all my questions, and I wish you good luck on your legislation, and we will definitely take a look at it as it goes further into its stages. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Applications for the National Education for Women's Leadership Conference are still available. New Leadership is an annual 5-day residential institute designed specifically for undergraduate women. It will take place Friday, May 21st through Tuesday, May 25th on the University of Oklahoma campus. The New Leadership Conference is a week-long residential program where women learn about women's leadership and women's political participation and meet with women leaders from a variety of roles in politics and policy. Applications are due this week by 4 p.m. on Thursday, March 11th. If you would like more information, contact Dean Holland in Student Services. That's all the time we have left today. Tune in next time for more news from the Student Government Association. Please be sure to check out CUTV on YouTube by going to youtube.com and searching CU Internet TV. On behalf of everyone here at CUTV and for This Week in SGA, I'm Amanda Finch.